Right then. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What can you remember from when you were a boy?
From when I was a boy, I was a chubby little boy. All I can remember basically that I didn't like anything rough on my skin. Because we used to have jerseys in those days, and I used to freeze. That's all Mum could afford, so jerseys. And of course, we lived in a fairly nice house, 4 bedrooms, bathroom, toilet, and of course, fire in every room. So we were fairly comfortable. But, a miner's boy, destined to go into the mines. But when I was growing up, we didn't have any toys to play with, couldn't afford toys. We had a common at the top of the road with a big sandpit, and my toys was a brick. That was my toy, my kind of toy car or tank or whatever. I used to make tracks all around this pit. There was about 3 of us used to go up there and play. But such things as luxuries as cars and planes didn't exist. But we got by. We enjoyed life. We didn't have bikes or anything like that. Parents were, not really well off, and they couldn't afford much. Anyway, it went through life. Went to school. I hated school first. They had to drag me to school. I remember being thrown through hedges, and Mum used to drag me out. And I used to really hate it. The main thing I think was the way I was dressed. I was in this jersey, and I didn't feel right, shorts. And, you eventually got used to it. But every time I put this jersey on, I used to freeze because I hated it.
Did you go to the same school as your brothers?
Oh yes, yeah. I went to the same place, secondary mod. Yeah. In fact, I started. I was first of all a boys' brigade. I joined the boys' brigade, and I think it used to be 6 a week, and that was towards your uniform. I used to buy bits and pieces. Used to pork pie out, and you can only stay there until you're a certain age. Then you're up to the Cubs. I just managed to buy the uniform when I was joining, went into the Cubs. So you start off again to buy a uniform for the Cubs. I quite like the Cubs,
What did you like best about the Cubs?
Well, it's the outings, the camping and all that.
Do you remember any particular camping trips?
Oh yeah, when I went from there, I went to the Scouts. And I really enjoyed the Scouts. And we went to camping to London. No, it was a fortnight. We went in an old army truck. There was about 20 of us in the back of this truck, open back. You can imagine all the fumes coming in the back of the car. Just went to London now. And our team leader was the vicar.
Okay.
And funny old chap. Anyway, we got to London. Now we set up not far from the sea and the river down the side. And our first night was neap tide. The tide came up and the river swelled. I remember lying in my bed. We had a tent. And I was on an inflatable mattress. And I put my hand out and my, what do you call it, snap tin, was full of water. So I tipped it out, put it down, it was full of water again. So we actually found we were floating. So we panicked, jumped out of the tent. And as we got there, the old vicar was way out to sea. He had a safe, a wooden safe where he kept all the money and everything, And I floated out to sea and he was waiting out to see if they catch it. So all our equipment was wet through. We couldn't do anything. Our food was ruined. So a local farmer got his tractor out, put all the stuff on his tractor. We sat on his tractor, and he took it to one of his barns in his hayloft. He sat in his hayloft and got dried and that, and then we all came home. So basically, we had one day camping. Yeah. But I had lots of jamborees and things like that, which we really enjoyed all across the country, from Wales and all that. I really enjoyed it. Became a King Scout, and I remember really the last thing I got the staff. I paid for everything, the camp, all the badges. My arm was actually flustered with badges.
I was going to say, how many badges did you get?
Yeah.
Do you remember any particular favourite badges that you earned?
Oh, I had the Pathfinder's, the Cook's badge. There was loads of fire makers. There was quite a few. I was sure I forget. And, yeah, it was quite a nice time.
When you used to have to get up and get your mum home from work at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, that was in between. I used to go to church every Sunday. I'd be there at 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock at night. I was an acolyte then. Yeah, and then I had to, I used a paper round, and that was a 4 mile away. And then I had to drive the cows in. I used to start at 6 o'clock in the morning, drive the cows in. And the cows are very good, you go to an old farm, walk at the gates, and all the cows would be waiting for you to open the gates. The only danger was to get to the farm from a field. It was quite about a half a mile walk. Then there's a major road, and you had to cross this major road with your cows. Mind you, not much traffic in those days. You had bus, I think. So you had to stand in the middle of the road, guns out, and the cows were very good. They knew where they were going. They just shot across the road. Yeah.
Whereabouts were you living at that time?
I was living in Clipston still, yeah.
Where's that?
That's in Nottinghamshire. Yeah. 8 4th Avenue, Clipston.
Do you
Yeah.
remember?
Oh yeah, I remember it well. Well, first of all, we were in 10 4th Avenue. Mum wanted 8 4th Avenue because the people next door won the lottery. They won 75,000 on the pools.
Oh, wow.
So she moved out, and I said, "Oh, I'd like their place. There's more room, and of course, it's more private because there you had to walk past our place to get out, come in there. So she didn't like them looking through our window as they passed down. So we thought we'd move in there. That was a big mistake because when we got there, the place was like rugged with fleas.
Oh dear.
Yeah, we had to have all the skirting boards out and the people come in and they loused the place. But we soon got it organised. But this bloke who moved out, because there was stances, there was him and these 3 girls. And they moved into bought a fish shop. And I remember that they had a queue, people waiting, and it was frying, and they pulled out this blooming mass from the fish tank, from the fryer. He lifted it up and he said, "That bugger won't run again, And the shop just cleared. That killed him. So silly of us. Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's a hard life. I used to do all the shopping. I better call it shopping for a week shopping. You had a basket, just a basket. And not a lot to spend. You can imagine what it was. Egg, bacon, butter, marge, lard, tea, sugar. Mum liked camp coffee. Mother, every morning at 11 o'clock, she used to have the neighbours in for a cup of coffee. You know, have coffee and then that. It was very nice. And, I remember my first evening round taking the papers. It started off where it was light and it was dark after everything, and I didn't know where it was. I had to go and fill the numbers on the door to see what number it was. So if I posted it said it was 21. I went, well, was it 21? But apparently I made 3 mistakes. But the governor was very nice. So he gave me a torch. So I was all right at that time. No, of course, life.
What was it like growing up with your brothers?
Well, my Johnny, we weren't really all that close. He was, you know, sort of on his own all the time. And although he went to the same school, we were in different sort of classes.
What age gap was there between you?
4 years. Yeah.
4 years older.
Yeah. But he's a handsome guy. Dark, wavy hair. And I remember he became a conductor on the buses. Because he had a uniform. The girls used to like uniforms. So he had quite a follow girls. While he was doing that, you know, he used to bring girls home. And I used to be scrubbing the kitchen floor. You know, it's like a Cinderella story. Yeah. In the kitchen, doing the washing with mum, pumping the punching, as they used to call it. Lighting the copper, cleaning the copper, hanging out the clothes. It was tough, but it was all right, you know. Yeah. I remember once I brought one of his girls home. I suppose getting on to what, about 13 then. And John just didn't arrive. And she lived in Mansfield, which was about 4 miles away. So she said, God, I've missed the last bus, I've got to walk out because Mum wouldn't let us stay. So I said, look, I'll walk you home. So I walked to home, and when I got there, she turned around to me and she said, you were very slow. I said, John would say you're very slow. I said, you're John is my brother's girlfriend. He said, oh, I wouldn't dream of doing anything with you. She said, but I love you. I said, but I don't even know you. I said, I know you as a friend. And I said, I just left her there and came over. And the next thing John said to me, he said, oh, you've fallen in love with my girlfriend. I said, no, I haven't. Because she doesn't want to see me anymore. She wants you. I thought, no. The school was good. You know, after a while, I liked history. I liked geography, English. Main thing was maths. I like maths. Woodwork. That's art, of course. We used to have, the girls used to bake, you know, and we used to sort of, as the kids come out of the bakery, we used to crowd around them and get their nibbles. They were very good to us. Yeah, I remember we had a bloke called George Jevons, and he was a boxer. Well, his dad was a boxer. He's teaching him to box. And I suppose we were about 13 at the time. And he was, Cockers called, he was bossing everybody about. And one day I was in the playground, and he'd got this girl and she was screaming, get off this. So I went hold of it and I gave him a bear hug, and I put him to the ground. And he said, I'll get you. And And I said, okay. We stood up. I said, now come on, get me. And he just dashed off. From that moment on, I was the cock of the school. So I did, do anything about it. But, it was nice. Everybody sort of looked up to me, and I was you get things. But,
Sorry.
right?
Just an alarm on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some nice friends. We had lots of immigrants come through. We had a Morris Fletcher. He was from Sweden, and he came to stay with us. A wonderful footballer, and of course the girls liked him because he's very blonde, square face, very blonde, and lots of girls fancied him. But, it was good. After a certain time, you get used to. Oh, what I didn't like really was the way I used to dress. These awful jerseys. I remember going to the market with mine. She saved and saved and saved, and she bought me some clothes. She bought me vests, pants, shirts, or whatever. And I was carrying this carrier bag. This is a market, and there was something behind she wanted me to try. So I put the bag on the floor, went to try the bits and pieces, come back, the bag had gone with all the bits in it. I was a bit upset then, because Mum had worked all this hard, and all still these clothes. Mum used to work in the hospital, which is called Strawberry Knob.
What did she do?
She was a midwife, really, but jack of all trades.
What did your father used to do?
Father was a surface worker down the mines. That's why I'm going down the line. But when I was, I suppose, 14, any time to leave school, I went into the mine. We started work at 6 o'clock in the morning and finished at 1 o'clock. And so you had to get up at 5 o'clock, you had to walk to work. And you have to take your sandwiches with you. And the first day at work, you just look around and you get yourself familiarised with the place before you actually went down the lift. But as I say, that lift was quite frightening. You go onto this lift and you can see the grated floor, and you look down and you see this little speck of light mild down and just lift the edge and take away the chocks and down it goes. And you don't breathe until you get down, and all the slack is coming up in your face because it's an updraft. And you get down there, first of all, your impressions are really good. It's an whole whitewashed, nice thing. When you get onto the paddy and you go further out, that's when it starts to get closer, and you see the walls caving in and all that. It's terrible out there. There's dust all over the place. You're walking in the 4 inches of water all the time. Now, if you got lost, there was horses there, and pit ponies are good. You just get hold of his tail, smack him, and he'd take you to the surface, to the actual lift. Very good. And they were blind, basically, because I've been down there all that time. And I was there for 6 months. And I was doing, some trucks go down. I had trucks this side and trucks that side. And what you had was a bit of wood that long, which used to scotch on the wheels to stop the tubs from going. And I got it like that, and it trapped my finger in between the tubs that went. And when I did this, it just squashed that finger flat. So it just splashed blood. So I just bloke who was working with me as a old fella took me straight to the lift, and in the lift was two horses, two pit ponies. They were going to the surface for a rest. So they jammed in between the two. Yeah, and took me out to Hospital Hospital, where they took my fingernail off and stitched it all up as best they could. And that was the last day I had at the pit. I can't go back anymore. So I said to my mum, I'm not going back there anymore. Not my life. The pay was marvellous. I was getting more the first day than my dad. My dad was worked there for all his life, you know. But I was getting twice as much as he was. So you get a lot of good money. It was very, very good money down there, you know. And you stay there, you could be well off. But it's just your health, you know, it affects your health. It wasn't for me. So
After that,
I thought I'd join the Navy.
what was that like?
Well, first of all,
Do you remember
You have
when
to-
you signed up?
you have to pass the exam, a fitness exam. So there's a place in Mansfield. Went there, and first of all, you did this exam. Stupid questions like, how do you spell table? There's tricky questions, you know, which are awkward. But I got through that all right. The fitness thing was a piece of cake because I was a gymnast. Because that's what I did when I was in the Army Cadets. We did all sorts of things, you know. We did the bars, the parallel bars, the rings. And I really got fit. In those days, I was a 44 chest, 30-inch waist, and I was 11 and a half stone. And I stayed like that for a long, long time. We did a display for Montgomery, you know, on the village green. We have set up,
What was that involved?
all doing gymnastics, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, vaulting and somerset and twists and I used to enjoy that. But,
What was it like the first day of being in the Navy? Do you remember that?
I do. I remember
Yeah.
you getting with Keith, getting on the train, travel down to Ipswich.
How did you feel about leaving all your family behind?
Yeah, it was all right, you know. It was all right. A lot of young boys cried when we did that night time, but I was all right. I went to HMS Ganges, and they were very strict with us, the boys. And we had a sort of, I was at Anson Division. We all had under commanders. And mine was a submarine commander, Admiral Jellicoe. He was a very well known submariner. And I enjoyed that life. You know, you did your own washing, your own ironing. And the thing is, you had to sew your name in everything. You know, I'd never sewn it before. It was cable stitched, so, and it had every Friday you had a kit muster, and your kit had to be rolled up, tied up, and the name across there, and everything had to be in line. And so if you were on board ship, of course, and it was hold, and your kit wasn't rolled up like that. If you put the old suction in there, you know, pumps, the clothes would get around and block the pumps. That's why they did it. So that's why, you know, from an early age, you learned how to keep your kit smart. But I enjoyed that. One day I was working away, and the petty officer came up to me and he says, Shields, the commanding officer wants to see you. I thought, oh, what have I done now? So I got into the office. He said, don't worry, boy. I said, you're going to make a leading boy. So I thought, oh, from a leading boy, he said, you don't do any more kit musters, and you'll be in charge of this when the PO is not about. I thought, oh, that's all right. So I did that, and on the parade ground, because being in the Army Cadets, I'd done all the marching and all that, with the rifles and slow arms. So I was quite adept to marching, and so I had all the boys on the parade ground, and they're doing all the marching and sloping arms and left inclines and right inclines. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. Excuse.
You were coaching all the boys.
Eh?
You were coaching them all on your left, on what you knew.
Oh no, the boys basically with school, because we went from school to there, you know, and we went back to school in the Navy, and I learnt more in the Navy for those 4 years schooling than anywhere. I really shone. There's in the what's this 4 categories. There's what they call GC under, GC upper, and advanced class. So I was a general class when I went in, and after a while I became advanced class, which is with the top range. I was quite chuffed because I really wanted to get on. But when I was in the mines, I thought, what's the use of studying? You're not going anywhere, are you? You're going to be in that dark hole for the rest of your life. Well, at least you're 65. And I don't want that. So I thought, well, it's the Navy. But after a while, I was pretty good at everything. I'm not boasting, but I was pretty good. And they made me a PO boy then. It was like with a crown on top. And I got an extra something a day. Yeah. But you used to do your own washing, your own ironing. I remember you used to have 7 creases in your trousers. Everything had to be small. Everything was creased. And the dobing, of course, you had a shower and you dobe it at the same time. You know, which is you had a bucket and you did all your washing. So every day you used to do your washing and your dobing. And then the time came to leave, and I couldn't, my leg swollen up. So my whole class was going to South Pacific, and I missed that. So I had to go with the next class. So I was in hospital for about 3 months with this leg. People used to bash their legs with a wet towel to make it swell, and they thought I'd done the same to stop them from going abroad. But and anyway, it eventually went, and then it was my turn to go aboard.
And what was your first ship?
My first ship was a destroyer. That was HMS Orwell, and a nice boat, or a nice ship, so I say. I thought the ship was very good. We had a nice mess deck on the front, and you have to hammock. You have to make your own hammock, tie it all up, because if you couldn't do it, you couldn't sleep in the hammock. So you had to wind a slingy hammock, which was to loop every cord, every string. But the hammocks was a saver for me, because when you're in the sea, the hammocks would go like this instead of you going up and down. Your hammocks was straight. Well, first of all, I was all right, you know. But when the rough weather came, and the sea was going up and down, that was me finished. I was sick as a dog. And so I was calm. Every time it was rough, I was sick. and I spent lots of time on deck, not in board. I couldn't go down below. The smell of the diesel and everything. We were assigned on 3 months trip. It was to escort HMS Illustrious. It was with the actual United exercise. There was America.
United Nations, was it?
Yeah, America, France. There's about 4 nations doing these war exercises, which lasted for 3 months. And at the end of it, I was almost dead. I'd hardly eaten. Oh dear, I was living on ship's biscuits and cocoa. I used to sleep on the deck all night, just right in the centre, which is the least pivotal bit. And after that, they sent me back to Devonport because I was seasick, and then assigned me to Illustrious, the aircraft carrier, where they thought, well, it wouldn't be so rough. How wrong could they be? God, the bigger it was, the worse it was, you know. So the hangar had what they call a Burma Road alongside. It was a road going from forward to aft, and that's the only way you could get past the hangar deck. So we used to walk along there, and as you walked along, the airship would come up, and you'd be walking uphill, and it would come down, but it wouldn't come down in one. It would come down in stages, boom, boom, boom. And so we'd just, oh, it's terrible. It was terrible. But I stayed on there for quite a while. And we had the Polish pilots practicing, and we used to stand on the deck or on the bridge and watch them pilots come in. And the accidents they had, God, awful, absolutely awful. Used to come in, and the bloke was waving them in, and they go, no, 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 and he'd still come in, and the back end would hit the stern of the ship, the tail end would go up, and it'd go up in the air and smash onto the deck. But the old pilot was okay. And it'd land so heavy, a wheel would break off, and he'd go shooting right off the end of the carrier of the landing deck. And then they'd miss the arrestor ropes, and they'd scream, it would rev like anything. And you'd see him go over the end, and you're coping, come on, rise up. And they'd say, oh, come up. God, that was hairy. I mean, the amount of planes we lost. Some would come over the side like that and hit the propeller on the side, and it would smash up and it goes, bits go all over the place. Quite dangerous. But it was,
Wow.
it had to be done, you see, and these, I've only been pilots for a couple of weeks because we were desperate for pilots. You know, they'd learned how to fly, but you can imagine landing on the deck which is going like this. Huh? All you've got is one hook, and the rest hook. If you miss that rest hook, yeah, you've had it. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, life on board, pretty good. Very good.
What was your favourite station when you were in the Navy?
I didn't have any favourite stations. You know, we after the war, we visited Workington. We were the first warship to visit Workington. And they gave us the freedom of the city.
Whereabouts is Workington?
Workington, it's up on the east coast. You know, on the northeast coast.
Okay.
We blotted our copybook because we came in there. It's a very narrow harbour. And so we had to drop the anchor and swing around so we could go back that way. Unfortunately, it didn't get it quite right, and the pier was here. All the band was playing on the pier, and we hit the pier, demolished the pier, running off the pier. So blotted our copy out. Yeah. Anyway, they forgive us. They give us the freedom of the city. And when we left, they said to us, please leave us a bit less to the pier. But we had a nice time. Everywhere we went, people were great. Absolutely great. Yeah. Then, what happened after that? From Illustrious, I went to Malta. Malta, I stayed there for 2.5 years.
And what was that like?
That was great, absolutely great. I had a wonderful time. You know, I love to dance. In fact, every time I was on board, every night I was ashore, I was dancing. I remember the first time I wanted to dance, and I just didn't have a clue. So I said to one of my mates, you know, how do you dance? So he said, I'll tell you how to do the quick step. And then 1, 2, side together, 1, 2, side together. And that's what I thought, I'll try that. So I remember getting on this dance hall and going to, I thought 1, 2, side together, 1, 2, side together. And I thought I'd get to the end of it. What do I do now? What do I turn around now? So I did jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. But from that, my dancing got better and better and better every night. And I used to go to one place in Devonport, and there was a girl there called Beth, and she loved to dance. Nothing between us. And we got nattering. We used to meet there every time. And we both used to dance. And from there on, I did every dance you can imagine. You know? And I really, really liked dancing. And, it was great. And that carried on when I was in Malta. And Malta got some nice places for dancing. I remember when we first went out, and we went down to Valletta, and on Christmas, Sunday, when everybody comes out and parades down the Valletta Centre, or everybody's actually jam-packed. And now if you go, there's a place called Straight Street, which is the turning off Valletta. This is now called the Gut. Yes, a place of ill repute. Oh dear. Because me and my mate went there, and we thought, just have a pint. And we get in there, and these two old dears, these Maltese ladies, when they're young, they're all very attractive and nice. When they get to about 30, they sort of blossom out. And you think, is about 50 or 60, And we were sitting down having this pint. And these two dears came up to us and smiled, and a toothless smile, and they lifted up this cast, the jiggy jig. Me and my mate were out there like a flash. Oh dear, oh no. Yeah. They were in Tarfa. Oh dear. And there's a nightclub there. And I was with my mate, and I was dancing with this so-called girl. And when I got back, he said, that girl you're dancing with? I said, yeah. He said, that's a fella. I said, no. He said, it's a fella. I said, she's too nice to be a fella. Look at that. That curvy, lovely. Look. And then she got on the stage and started to sing. And she sang in a man's voice. Oh no. Oh dear, oh no. And I looked around, and there was quite a lot of these fellas. Oh, flourishing, made up, Cool, dear. So we thought, I better get out of this place. Yeah. So we were based in Salima Creek, and my duties there was to look after torpedo boats. The torpedo boats were about half a mile in the creek. So I used to swim out there into the boat. All I would do is keep them up, ready for action if we needed. But that was a wonderful job, Every morning, dive over there, swim across, do your bits and pieces. We do a lot of cool coating to keep it, and run the engines, make sure they were going. And good life. I used to go ashore in Salima, and every other place was a bar. Mind you, I didn't drink an awful lot, and I never smoked till I was 22. And the only reason I smoked, I used to get 200 cigarettes a fortnight. That's what you're allowed. That was five bob. So I used to do deals with people to do my watches because they wanted the cigarettes. And also the rum. I wasn't all that keen on the rum. So I used to do that, and people used to do my watches. So it was quite handy for them. Yeah. So, yeah, I had one or two friends in there, and we had a clique. We were doing torpedoes. Yeah, about 4 of us, because I was in Asdix, and that was torpedoes and things in submarines. The sound noiting point.
Yeah.
That's what I was in. But I was on the other side where we did the old prepared the torpedoes. That was very interesting. In those days, a torpedo cost £2,000 per time.
Wow.
That's a lot of money in those days.
Yeah.
But they were absolutely finished, wonderful little engines. Although it was only oxygen they were doing, wonderful things. I had quite a few. I quite a good time in Malta, and I used to dance every night. I remember we going one girl, and I wasn't a forward guy, and I wasn't much of a chit chat. And they just got to this girl, and we had every dance I took her back, and I never even offered her a drink or anything like that. Terrible, really. And at the end of that dance, I just said, "Thanks very much and goodbye." I suppose 2 weeks later, again, I was in the dance hall, and I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was this girl. And she said, "Remember me?" I said, "Yeah, of course I do." She said, "Well, do you want to, come along?" And from there on, we sort of made a good friendship. We were dancing, and they used to take her home and all that. So I used to see her basically every night. That was nice. She was a nice girl. And I had a relation with a Maltese, but they're very clingy Maltese girls.
Do you remember her name?
Eh?
Do you remember her name?
No, I don't. The Maltese girl?
The one you were dancing with?
Oh yeah, that was Kath. And the Maltese girls, they want to introduce you to your parents and get so tied up, they want you to marry the English people, get back over here. So that didn't last very long. But there are lots of things to do. I can't remember most of them, but we had all.
When did you join the Field Guns crew?
Oh, the Field Guns crew, oh my goodness, yes. That was in 1952. 1952. What's come off the, just before I went to Malta. because I went to the Field Guns Crew and Devonport. That's where we practiced. And Earls Court, 1952. I broke my leg. I was one of the blokes carrying the actual gun across. You have to sit on the axle and you slip it and it falls down. You sort of have to get out of the way. And he broke his leg. And I said, Shields, here. So I said, well, how the hell do you get off this thing? He said, oh, you found out. And I didn't. I broke my leg about four swollen up. So I was off for quite a while. I remember going back to see the lads from hospital, and at that time there was a rampage. They were cutting each of hair, but the scissors making all sorts of messes of their hair. And they saw me coming, and I had a wonderful head of hair then. And they go, I said, you can't do that. I'm yes, I can. So I was dashing on with plaster, and they chased me off, and about four of them bumped onto me, and I got my hand over here. But they pulled the way, snip, snip, snip. And it was terrible. So after that, I went to the barber's. He said, what the hell happened to you? I thought I got it caught in the fan. He said, I think you did. So he said, I've got an option. He said, I've got to take it off. So he did. He took it all off, making me a crew cut. Yeah. The Field Guns Crew is very good. We had the best meals you could have. Everything was for, massive meals. You had to be fit. It was really, really tough. But you got the best of everything. I remember you had an assault course to do, which the paras used to do to get dippers. And you start off on the ground, you get higher and higher and higher, so ropes and all this. And at the end you come up with this tree, and you look right down. All you've got is this rope going down, and all you've got is a bit of rope to bring over the rope, get over it and slide down. And I, like an idiot, I jumped. And you can imagine it's like that, and I jumped. I must have gone like that for hours before I hit the rope, boom, and I got down. And I think I was the first person to do the course. So they said, you're number 7. I was marked for number 7, whatever that was at that time. But they all came in and everybody came down, oh, you'll do for number 5, you'll do number 2. But, the wheels on the carriages, they're terribly heavy. You have to lift them over this wall, and you have to get them like that, lift them like that, slide over the wall. With a gun barrel, that was terrifically heavy. Oh, we did it. I think we won that one in 3 minutes, 13 seconds, which is the fastest time ever. So, yeah. So, I said, you'll have a good celebration when you get back to Devonport. Unfortunately, I blotted my copybook. The 3 of us went ashore in London. And said, I had a girlfriend in London as well. And we were properly dressed because I had my white gaiters, white belt, and that was allowed. Because the MPs, so easy thought nothing of it, This is our uniform, we go out. And we were walking along, and these MPs came up, pushed us into a car, and took us back to the depot. And the old commander said, yeah, you're not going back home, you're going to stay here for a fortnight and clean the place up. you'll miss all the celebrations. I thought, whoopee. So I'll have another fortnight up there, which I did, enjoyed that. But it's, you know, it was great fun. Great fun. But you have to be fit. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's when, after that, they thought, we give me an easy posting. That's when they sent me to Malta. A nice, relaxing place. I remember Malta, and we were some Salima when you go aboard. You go ashore, and every other house was a pub or building. And I used to go in there. They used to like play drafts. All these women were in charge of the pubs. And I used to go in there and they used to say, Mr. Mick. They called Mr. Mick. Drafts. I said, drafts, play you for a pint. Okay. So I used to play it and they used to win the pint. Because I was quite good at drafts. And there used to be awful stuff. It was called Screech. Oh, terrible beer. After one, you were all right. Get that first one down. And they used to go to the next door and another game of drafts. I was quite known for my drafts. So I mean, drink. And I remember one day they wanted us to get our driving license for a Jeep. So we had a quick course. And knowing the Navy, you know, everything was done by numbers. You change your gears, because it was crash gears. When you change it, it's 1 and 2, yeah. And in the mirror, it's every 7 seconds in the mirror. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, all this. And things, all that. But we only had that for about a fortnight. Then we're up for a test. And the bloke who did the test was a chief of police. So there was about 6 of us in the back of this Land Rover. We got after outside in the wilds, I know that. And we sat there waiting for the chief to turn up. And suddenly he comes screeching out with his lights blazing, and I thought, my goodness, what's happened? He said, I've got an emergency on. He said, you passed. Haven't we? I've never done a test, just gives a pass. So we got an international license. Is that a test? So I thought, well, I'll take a car out. And I remember it was a little Singer, you know, open top Singer. And I thought, oh, fuck up, what's this? It was quite cheap to hire as well. So we started up okay. And there was about 3 of us in this car. And I was driving along. I thought, crikey, it's not going very fast. I put my toe down and I get up to a hill. And I get to this hill, we get up this hill. And I thought, crikey, so I changed down into gear. And I was just going backwards. I thought, but towing it, and it wouldn't go. And I got the handbrake on. Took the handbrake. Yeah, that was okay. Then I remember we'd had a day out, and we were coming back, and the accelerator cable broke. So I thought, oh, my goodness. So we got a bit of string, tied it to the carburetor, and borrowed it in my hand, so I could actually do that. So I thought, I said, well, it's my friend. I said, I'll put my clutch on, you change the gear, and I'll accelerate. So I said, okay. So I said this. I said, right, now change gear. No. Okay, I double the clutch. But it worked all right. I got back home with a bit of string. I don't think it was best pleased when I got back. But you owned it. Yeah. I mean, we'd never driven a car, basically. I mean, I'd driven this Land Rover a couple of 100 yards, you know, just 1, 2, 1, 2. But to take a car out, on the road. Mind you, not much traffic on there. All Garys, you know. And we used to have races with Garys. Yeah. I had one. I had one fella. He was built like a horse. He was as wide, but not very tall. And his nose was broad, was right white. But he was a nice guy. Very quiet, right? Very nice. And we went to the shore and we had a few pints. And he got a little bit over the top. And when we came back, the old gangplank was like that. And there was a ship. So we got up to the top, and he got to the top of the gangplank, and he looked down like that. And I went, he went splat. Oh, because I was about half cut as well. But he never felt a thing. He woke it up in the morning, it was fine. But I said, you make a good boxer, because I used to box. And I said, I'll introduce you to the teacher. And I said, you only once swipe, you knock a bloke out. So he had a few sparring rounds with the coach. And he said, well, we'll try you out with a fella. He said, it's all right, but it's not all that top end. So he goes in the ring. Of course, it was a ring with everybody's watching on. And he gets up there, about 2 rounds, and this bloke went, whop. He went, flap, knocked him out, flat out. And I thought, I don't believe that. Of course, I got a bit for that. Him so you told me to do this. I said, well, you're big enough. There's lots of experiences like that. You can't remember them all.